You willing to take a polygraph? Of course.
As he comes around, it's for the line. Are you familiar with that? I want to get in there for this. If I have a passion as a filmmaker, it is always to try and take a thematic idea that can be approached intellectually and do that, but also approach it emotionally and humanize it. One of the challenges in telling a multi-layered story, just from a directing point of view, is how to keep every story in balance.
Who do we got?
Douglas Freeman, analyst.
An analyst is not a jackal.
You need to get to the core of that story and understand those people as quickly and yet as fully as possible. Essentially what you're doing is you're making, say, 4 or 5 short films and weaving them together.
Not getting anything.
We have 2 days to sort of really establish the look of Washington. And as you can see behind me, there's a deep fog here, and we've set up a shot that's going to look across the tidal basin and see the Jefferson Memorial in the background.
It's actually getting worse out there.
I know.
Because now those little lights are...
So we're going to wait for a second.
It's like torture.
Lost it again.
Hopefully the fog will eventually clear, but if it doesn't, we'll have spent 2 days in Washington filming here, and we'll have seen nothing of the Washington monuments.
We move them into the bigger opening.
This opening here is better.
Which means they end up a little on the same side as the monument, which is...
Because your track ends where? Yeah.
Well, no, because you haven't got separation between the monument and the...
There it is!
Now you can really see it.
Yay!
You're looking at the iconic images of Washington, the Capitol building and so on. And I remember Dion and I were going, it just feels a bit conventional, it feels a bit conventional. And I remember Dean say to me, we got to hide these monuments. And we started driving around and looking at monuments from positions where you couldn't quite see them.
So it's just her car, this outside lane, she just flies in like that car just
And we went up into one building and we saw the Capitol building through a modern building's glass facade. Vertical kind of columns and glass plates.
Rolling.
Action. And it just had this sense of the old Washington with its values that have stood for so long being pushed back, and a new Washington trying to impose itself upon the old.
What was great with Gavin and I, we sort of discovered a language for the movie. We didn't want to pursue a handheld, gritty doco style. We wanted a formal style, strongly composed, with a certain beauty to it.
I think it's interesting.
It's sort of be reflected, to drop the city in there.
So you're a little figure in a rather beige and bland hotel in the big city outside. I mean,
So you want a difference between when I'm talking to Jeremy and when I'm talking to Nero?
Well, I mean, maybe in the beginning it's something like phrase there, and then when the conversation gets more, that we kind of lose that, and I might be able to punch you on the father.
To me, the interesting element of this was that each person's story is about isolation. It isn't about connection. It isn't about us ultimately all being the same. It's about how singular we all are in the world.
I'm sure it's all just some sort of mistake.
I had a lot of curiosity and interest in what it must be like to be living as part of a Muslim family in America.
Jeremy, that was such a good save.
Come on, Mom, kick the ball.
There's a lot of fear that has been propagated. Ever since 9/11, it's been difficult for those families to travel. It's difficult to be in a community and establish themselves as regular people.
He was talking about Japanese art.
There's such a large amount of fear in this country that if you are perceived as at all being aligned with the wrong side, you're doomed, you're gone.
We got a bill we're trying to get passed. This business is just gonna muddy things up. You wanna be the guy who never has to compromise? Go join Amnesty International.
I think part of what my character learns in this movie is that if you fight that too hard, you become irrelevant.
So that you've tried to fight, and then he hits you with a sucker punch and he says, drop it. Okay, I got it.
If we want to get into a fight about rendition, It's got to be the right fight at the right time. It's got to be a watertight case, and this ain't it.
That's the realities of Washington, and that's the realities of this country.
Douglas Freeman.
Who is this?
Corinne Whitman. Lee Mayer speaks very highly of you. I'm the kind of person who sits at home and screams at the television news. It's very, very interesting to climb into the shoes of people whose purview it is to safeguard the nation and really think about how far you'd go to do that.
All right, well, what do you want to do? Can't keep him here indefinitely.
I'm on a plane. I feel great compassion for the people that choose to stand up and be public servants in the world we live in now, because it's hard.
Meryl Streep, Peter Sarsgaard, Alan Arkin playing these Washington-based roles. All of them are iconic in their own right. They carry, as actors, a sense of authority and power. And this Washington storyline is about having that power in your hand and what you do with it.
I'm giving you the authorization.
I didn't want to shoot in the States because Rendition is set in a fictional North African country. I didn't want to build a stage and try and pretend that we were somewhere else because there's such an energy that the actors and the director and the DP and everyone get from being in another world. And Morocco is an amazing country. All of us who went there came back profoundly affected.
2 years ago, I shot Babel here, and when I read the script, I knew immediately that we'd wind up going to Morocco because it's a very film-friendly environment, and it has a very Middle Eastern look.
The other street is a nice wide street with only like 20 doorways to get hard. So this is where Khalid comes when he comes the first time.
When we scouted in Marrakesh in particular as a town, just in terms of its color palette and its energy and the ancient city and these wonderful alleys that exist, you go, why would I want to build this? I mean, just point your camera and you get a great shot.
On our way, and then we're going to go.
It's just cinematically a dream. It's both a quality of light and a texture in the landscape, the way the landscape kicks back, the reds of the earth. And so everything has a sort of heightened reality to it.
Nice to see you. I'm practicing my Arabic. As we go this way, which gives us a little more room on this fountain, and then we go this way.
We didn't come here for the big vistas. We came here more for the Medina and the streets and the back alleys.
One small donkey cart trying to make its way through. So Nordine, you're on the back of the bike with me? Okay, go. Just going in this direction. Master Cam ducking here, which is just to sell Khalid's neighborhood.
You know, both he and I run around with stills cameras all the time. I have my stills camera with me when I scout, and Dion has his. Because it's difficult to talk visually in the abstract. It helps when you actually see it. Say, this is what I'm seeing. I'm looking at it like this. How are you looking at it?
So we're here, there. This time. I think it does help just to snake that road a bit.
And we go back and download our pictures and look at the pictures and gradually build up the film from those images so that we were constantly in visual sync.
You're trying to create any street activity out, that'd be very difficult because of how busy it is.
You mean this? The roundabout beyond this street. I think that can just go live.
Try and go live, you'll have 1,000 people watching. You can never do that here. Just as I've stressed that, you can never do the real life thing.
Same thing I told you in
with the crew size we're going to have.